Hi, good evening, good morning, everyone. We will start in a couple of minutes, so please stay tuned. Okay, so let's get started. Yeah, thank you very much for joining today. And yeah, let's get started. Before we start, I want to give you a recap of what has happened till yesterday. And I want a thumbs up from all of you if you are able to hear me properly and see the screen. Okay, thank you, Sita. Anybody else able to see the screen here properly? Thank you, Shashank. Okay, so let's get started. Yeah, yesterday we started with the global infrastructure of Azure. We have seen what is region, we have seen what is availability zone, and then we have looked at the demo of your portal walkthrough. Then we have looked at the concept of what is a subscription. How do you add a user to the Azure subscription? Uh, then we have looked at the concept, what is the difference between Microsoft Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and the licensing for the Azure directory. Now, today we are going to move ahead and we will look at the virtual machine. I started with the introduction of the virtual machine yesterday, wherein we saw what are the different components, what are the different virtual machine size we have, and then we have also seen how do you attach a disk, what is a disk in terms of the Azure virtual machine, what is OS disk, what is data disk, and so on. Hmm? So today we are going to start with the first thing is to create a virtual machine in your Azure portal. Now, just a heads up to all of you. Uh, Today I would like to extend the class by close to around 30 minutes. If everybody is fine, I can do that. Please let me know if you are okay with this. Yeah, so you can paste the message in the chat. I want to extend the class today by half an hour so that I can cover some of the topics, and tomorrow I might leave the class little early due to some work. Yeah, so just to cover up for tomorrow's time, I would like to take half an hour more today. Hmm? I hope if you are having you are okay with that, just give let me know in the chat. Okay. So whenever we want to start with our virtual machine, I told you earlier yesterday that we have to plan for our virtual machine. Keep it closer to where the end user is so that they will be able to have a better latency, better utilization of the Azure resources. So here is my portal, and I've just logged into my portal, and you can see I have my Azure subscription, and then within this I'm going to create a account, or I'm going to create my virtual machine. The first and foremost thing when we want to create is to just go here into search bar and type in virtual machine. Here is the virtual machine section. Now, for those who want to try it out, here is the link for the link. Yes, not to this one, but the other one. Here is the link to create a Windows machine. It's a link which you can use, and you can also create a virtual machine along with me. Okay, this is a quick start guide, and you just have to log in into this, and you can start creating the virtual machine along with me. You can do that via portal, you can do that via CLI, PowerShell, and so on, like this. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do, is going to create a Windows machine in our Azure environment. So here I am in my portal. Here it is. And I will go to this virtual machine section, and I will say create virtual machine from here. Remember yesterday I told you that for any resources when you are creating within your Azure environment, you need to have a resource group. At this moment, I do not have a resource group. Those resource group are for some other purpose. But for this, I'm going to create a new resource group. Resource group is nothing but a container for your resources. I click on create new resource group. I will say ExcelR VM demo. This is the name of the resource group. Fine. Then I have to give the name of the resource. My ExcelR Win VM. Now there are certain reserved character names which you cannot give. So if you give Windows VM like this, it will say that yeah, it is a reserved word. Don't give that. Okay. So now I have given this my ExcelR Win VM. This is the name I have given. Now because your virtual machine service is a regional, you have to go and select it. In terms of AWS, you were having a page which was dedicated for the region, and you select the region from here, the top and right top end corner. Sorry. Yeah. Then I will select the East region, East US region. This is the region I'm going to use, and sorry for that. Okay, for you, if you are trying to use a free tier account, then I suggest you go and select the central US. In there, you might find a machine which is B1S as a type. So go and search if you don't find it in East US. Then the third option, which is not mandatory, which is called as availability option. We will look at the availability option. What is that in the later slides? But at this moment, I'm just not selecting any redundancy option for my virtual machine and simply selecting no, which is the standard. Then in the security type, I can just select the security type as standard. If you look at the what is the security type, it is nothing but the features which are available for your virtual machine, which includes called as trusted launch and confidential virtual machine. Yeah, which will help you to secure your Azure virtual machine. This is just some additional layer of security which you are adding onto your virtual machine. I'm just going ahead with the standard. I'm not changing it. Then this is the main part where you have to choose the base image. This is the image which we have to use to create our virtual machine. This is similar to the AMI which we have seen in AWS environment. So let us go and look at the various the images which are available in the Azure environment. Again, this all images are coming from the Azure marketplace. You can select those images from the marketplace as well. If you type in marketplace here, you will see all the images. Now, as a part of this, I'm going to select the Windows Server 2022 Data Edition, which is Gen 2. And then you might get that error which I got. And if you can observe, I cannot see any image name in this in this section here. This is some issue with the GUI which does not show, but actually it is selected. So don't worry if you don't see it here. No need to worry. It is actually selected. It is some issue with the GUI of the Azure which is not allowing to see that. Then we have to select the size of the virtual machine. As you have seen earlier, the size of the virtual machine is based upon the various families. I'm going to select the D2S V3, which is having 2 virtual CPU and 8 GB RAM. Now you can also go and look at all the sizes which are available. If you look at the B series, yeah, you have B1S, which is going to give you 1 virtual CPU and 1 GB RAM. My suggestion for you not to use 1 GB and 1 virtual CPU of the machine, which is B1S. Either go for B2MS, yeah, or B2S. Why I'm saying it? Because if you use this B1S, whenever you want to connect to your virtual machine, it is going to hang and it will be non-responsive. So remember that this is based upon the practical experience. You will see that virtual machine not responding properly to your whatever you are trying to do on that. So either select B2MS or B4MS or B2S as well. Okay, I am going to go ahead with the selection what I have did earlier, which is D2S underscore V3, which is having a 2 virtual CPU and 8 GB RAM. The best part is in Azure, you can see how much it is going to cost per month. So it is going to cost you 5,000 rupees, almost 5,000 rupees almost. Now, whenever you create a virtual machine, a Windows virtual machine, you need to give a administrator account name. So I'm going to give an administrator account name as Azure user. This is the username you should give. Now you can give any username, whatever you like, but my suggestion is to give this name as Azure user. Now I have a reason for it. At times, if you give some other name, for example, any my Excel, yeah, ExcelR tray like this. Okay, so at times what happens, you will not be able to log in into this machine by without sorry for that. Okay, so you will not be able to log in into a virtual machine even if you are putting proper username and password. Okay, so my experience says Azure user does not face this challenges. Whenever we give a username as Azure user, you will not face that challenge and you will be immediately able to connect to it without any reason. Okay, then give a password. So in this case, password has to be at least 12 character long. So okay, and it is missing one of the upper character. So I am just typing it again. Yeah, here it is. Such a long password. Fine. Yes. Now this virtual machine needs to be accessed via a public, correct? Public IP address. For this, we need to use and open one port which is called as RDP. Yeah, this is what we have done for the AWS machine as well. We opened the port 3389, and what it is going to do, it is going to open this port, and we will also select a public IP address for this particular machine because we are trying to connect it from outside of the Azure environment. Now within this, there is also some option of licensing, which is saying, would you like to use existing Windows Server license? If I select yes, then it will take into consideration your license which you have on premise. You can use that by using this. Yeah, and for this, I will get a benefit under a offering which is called as Azure Hybrid Benefit. For this Azure hybrid benefit, you need to have an enterprise license for the Windows with a software assurance enabled on it. Then only you will be able to use that license on the Azure environment. If you are not aware, go and check the license of your Windows machine and then try to use this. Okay, then I am not selecting it. The next thing I have to do is to select the hard disk. Now by default, you can see OS disk is already there and it is having those options: premium SSD, standard SSD, and standard HDD. By default, it is selecting premium SSD with local redundant storage. Now, what is this local redundant storage? We'll see that later on, but we are going to use the primary SSD. And we are checking this button, which is delete with the virtual machine. Whenever I delete my virtual machine, I also delete the OS disk. OS disk is mandatory, which has to be attached with your virtual machine. Now, one more thing which is unique with the virtual Azure is your disk is directly by default enabled with encryption in Azure. You can see it is using encryption at rest with platform managed keys, which is the default behavior. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead with this. If you want to add more disk to your virtual machine, then here is the option to add the data disk. Correct? This is the OS disk and this is the data disk. Remember, we have already talked about data disk. Data disk are nothing but additional storage which you want to add to your virtual machine. Fine, I'm not adding here. And then I go to the next networking section. Whenever we create a virtual machine, it creates its own virtual network. And this is what the virtual network name is. Yeah, it is showing as new. It creates its own subnet. It creates a public IP address. That is what we have actually enabled. The public IP address, we said that, yeah, we need a public. Then there is a firewall, which is called as network security group. In terms of Azure, it is called as NSG. Yeah, it is a security rule that contains allow or deny statement, which will block any access to your virtual machine. At this moment, I'm just going ahead with the basic security group. Then the port which we've already selected, it is showing here. Fine. I can add a load balancer to this virtual machine, which I don't want to do right now. And then I go to next, the management section. In the management section, I can enable the monitoring. Yeah, you can see here monitoring, enable boot diagnostic, which is enabled by default. I can enable the OS guest diagnostic system, manage identity, all those things. Then logging with your Azure AD. This is kind of a domain join, which you can do with this virtual machine, which we don't want to do right now because we don't have a full-fledged Azure AD, we have not set up the authentication via the Azure AD. And there's a feature which is called as auto shutdown in virtual machine. If I'm not using this, it will simply auto shut down my machine at this time, in particular that particular day. So it is a daily kind of a thing, and it will send me a notification on this email ID. Then I'm not changing anything. Go next. And in this, I can add any custom software on top of my virtual machine, and I can pass on some custom data, which is also called as user data or cloud init script here, which I'm not going to do right now. Then tag again the key value pair, which you can assign. I'm not assigning. Review and simply create. So whenever you are creating a virtual machine on Azure, it does a validation first. If your validation is passed, then only you will be able to create the virtual machine. So it is saying validation passed. So let us go and create a virtual machine. Now, remember one thing, whenever you are creating a virtual machine, it takes certain amount of time, which is as compared to your AWS environment, little on a higher side. It is going to take at least couple of minutes for this virtual machine to be in service. And at times, you will not be able to connect to this virtual machine close to around 5 minutes after the creation of virtual machine. So don't worry, nothing wrong in that. This is how the Azure environment will work. It takes that much time for it to create the resources. Now you can see in the background, it is creating all the resources. So it has created a network security group, which is a firewall for your virtual machine. It has created a public IP address. it has created a network, a virtual network, and it has created a virtual network interface. And once again, and then the last step it is going to do is create a virtual machine. Yeah. Once everything is done, your resource deployment will be completed. So let us go and wait for it. Okay. So I hope, yeah, very good. So here it is creating the virtual machine. Let us go and let it create. Okay, fine. This is also done, but the interface is still showing created. So we'll wait for that to happen. Okay, fine. So it is showing deployment is complete. So I will say go to the resources. And here is your virtual machine. Now it is saying my this virtual machine agent status is not ready. Troubleshoot the issue. So this message it will go automatically after some time. Don't worry about it. No action needs to be taken. Just wait for this to happen. Now you can see the various things. Remember one thing: whenever your virtual machine is in the running state, your billing will be applicable. Whenever it is not in the running state, it is not going to give you any kind of a bill. So this is what you have to uh, take a note of it. Then let's wait for this to get completed. You can see various other details of your virtual machine. You can do a monitoring like this. You can see this average CPU utilization, the network, the disk, byte, and so on. Yeah, and memory, all those things you can see for the. Then not, I would say not needed. This is and nothing is recommended for this. And you also have a tutorial for it. How do you create? Yeah. Okay, fine. Now, on the left pane, okay, you will see various other details of your virtual machine. For example, if I want to give access to this virtual machine to somebody and it is just limited to the virtual machine, then I go to the IAM section of this and yeah, and I can just view my role. This is because I have a full access. Yeah, has access to all this, or I can add a role. Okay, add a role assignment, and I can say a contributor role. Yeah, and next, and select a member. Yesterday we created one user, remember? Yeah, I can give him the access. But because this user was already part of the subscription, he must have the rights to that. But this is how you give a access to particular resource within the Azure environment. Fine. Okay. And go back to the resource. Then you can see the networking section here. You can see your network interface. You can see the firewall rules, the NSG. You can see the IP address. You can see the private IP address. Then you can see the disk here. You can see one disk which is attached. Size is showing 128 GB and so on. Then size of the virtual machine you can see from here. Yeah, if you want, you can also change the size and so on. There are so many things you can see in this left pane. So let us go and connect to this virtual machine. How do you connect? Click on this connect and say RDP. Once you say RDP, you have to download the RDP file. Yeah, so I am here, I am, and I'm trying to download the, I have just downloaded and I'm going to use this, the RDP connection, and I will say connect. And once I connect, it will ask me for a username. So I will just put it my username, which is Azure user, and the password for it. Azure user, and the password would be the one I have given to it. Fine. And I will say remember me, and I will say okay. Yeah. Once it is done, it will say, do you want to really get authenticated and connect to this despite the certificate error? I say yes. And now it is trying to connect. Yeah, here it is. Here is my the connection. Okay, fine. Okay. So anybody who has done this along with me, are you able to connect to your virtual machine like this? Do let me know. Okay, I will say no here. Okay. And I will say yes. First and foremost thing I am going to do is with the from the tool, I will sorry here in the manage, I will say server manager property, not this one. I go into the all servers here or local server, and I will just disable this IE enhance security configuration. Go to the local server and click on here and just turn it off. Okay, and say okay and refresh it. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Good enough. Now we have connected to our virtual machine. How do you go and verify it? You can just go here. Yeah. And go to the file explorer and you will be able to see your the Windows machine. Okay. You can see this is your OS disk, which is 128 GB with all the details. And you can also see there is a temporary storage. Remember, I told you the temporary storage, which is available with your Azure virtual machine, and it is depending upon the size of virtual machine you are going to select. So it is available. This is how you connect and use the virtual machine. Okay. So I hope everybody is able to understand this. Fine. Let us move to the next part. Now we are going to create a Linux machine and try to connect to that. Again, the same procedure we have to follow. I'm going to go to the virtual machine section again. And this time I will say create a virtual machine here. Again, same thing. And okay, come to this part, this section. And here, now I am going to use the earlier resource group. Okay, no need to create another one. But yeah, if you want to create another one, yes, you can create it. Now, the some of the reason why you should create a new one, if you want to delete all the resources which are related to that virtual machine, yes, you can just simply go and delete that resource group, and all resources related to your this virtual Linux virtual machine will be deleted. Okay, so let us do one thing. Let us create another resource group, and this time I'm going to give a name ExcelR Linux VM RG. This is the name. Okay, fine. Then I'm going to give a name, my Linux VM. This is the name. Then I'm going to select the region again, East West. In the availability option, no, nothing need to be selected. And then I will go ahead. Yeah. And in the image, I'm going to select, let's say, Ubuntu machine. Hmm? I'm going to select the Ubuntu machine. And then I will select the size. So here is the size. Just go ahead with the D2SV3. Then there are different ways how you connect to the Linux machine. One is by using a public key or one by using a password. So we will use option of public key and we will give a username for it. Again, I will use the same Azure user as the username, and then I will say generate new key pair. This is same key pair, the private key pair, private and a public key pair. We are going to create the same thing here for the Linux virtual machine as well. So I will name it my ExcelR key pair. Okay, and that's it. And you can see the port 22 is already selected, and that is what we need for the SSH. Done. Then disk. Next, I'm going to use the same premium disk which is attached by default. Not doing anything on the disk page. Let the encryption be as it is. Then go next. and it is creating a VNet for its own, which I'm going to keep as it is. It is creating a subnet. It is creating a public IP address. I am keeping it as it is. Then next, in the management, I'm not changing anything, keeping everything as it is. Go advanced, nothing here, tag, review, and create. Okay, let us wait for the validation of it. You can see here the validation is passed, and this is the cost. And then I'm going to say create. So once this is created, I will take questions if you have any. Mm. So I'm going to download. So yeah, download private key and create resource. Yes. So the PM file is created, and we'll wait for our resource to be launched. Okay. Any doubt in this? Anybody? Has anybody done this along with me? Yes, no? Amar Bharat, I could see very less attendance today.
Yes, today's attendance is too less.
Yeah. Fine. No worries. We'll do one thing. When we are ending our class, we will give everybody a chance to speak on the last day or last but one day, so that you can ask questions, whatever questions you have. We will try to reserve some time for that. And I will help you with your whatever the questions you have or queries you have. Sagar, okay, you want to see the process again? Very simple. I will just give you an overview. So go to your Azure portal, search for virtual machine, click on create, then create new resource group, give the name of your resource group, give the name of your virtual machine, select the image for your virtual machine, whether it is Linux, whether it is Windows, then select the size, and then select the SSH or RDP port based upon your choice of virtual machine. Then on the next screen, you don't have to do anything on the other screen. Just simply go next, 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 review and create it. Let it validate all the configuration you have selected, and then say create. Once this is created, yeah, you will see the things which are happening in the background. And once everything is done, your resources will be available for you, and you will see that yeah, deployment succeeded like this. Then you go and connect to it. Okay, so here is my Linux machine. If I want to connect to it again, I have to just do a SSH like this. And I will, for this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a putty client. Remember, we have used putty earlier. This is the putty client, but again, you have to do the same thing. Generate the key pair. Yeah, right key pair. Here it is. I have to look at this key pair and then use it. Before that, I need to go and use the putty keygen. So I am opening it, and here is my putty keygen, and load it and select all files. And this is the key pair I have. Fine. And open it. I will say okay and save as private key. That's fine. And then I will save the file with this same name, and that's it. Save it and close it. Now go here, browse to your file. Here it is. Open it. Go to the session, and in the session, take the public IP address of your machine. So this is your public IP address. Here is your machine public IP address, and paste it here. Okay, and say open. Once you say open, it is saying, do you want to accept? Yes, I say accept. And then it will ask you for a login as username. So I have given the username as Azure user, and that's it. Okay. If you are authenticated properly with this, you will be able to connect to your virtual machine. So here I am connected to my virtual machine with this user, and this is my VM. I hope everybody is able to see this and it is working fine. Anybody question on this? Huh? Okay, no worries. So fine, this is fine. So now the next thing I want to do, I want to show you maybe a web server on both of your Linux and a Windows machine. So I will just tell you about that, how to do it, and we will try to configure it. Okay. So this is what I have completed just now as a demo, and this is just a indication of what we have to select. Yeah, we have to select the inbound port rule, we have to select the OS, the data disk, the virtual network, load balancing if any, and so on. Hmm? And this is how you are actually connecting to your virtual machine. There is another way of connecting to your virtual machine, which is called as by using the Bastion host. Okay, so here is something called as Azure Bastion subnet, and you use a Bastion host to connect to your virtual machine. Now, what is the concept of this Bastion host? This Bastion host has just one functionality: to provide connectivity to your machines which are part of your private network. Hmm? These machines are sitting in your private network. This Bastion host will be sitting in a public network, and on this only two ports will be open, which is the 3389 and port number 22. 3389 is for your Windows machine. Port number 22 is for your Linux machine. Huh? So this is what you are going to use this Bastion host, hmm, and it uses both RDP and SSH to connect to your virtual machine. Any port apart from this is not permitted on this Bastion host, and you should not have it, because this is the only way you are trying to set up a connectivity to your virtual machines which are part of your private network. So from a security point of view, do not open any port apart from 3389 and 22 on this Bastion Azure Bastion machine. Hmm? Then this, whatever the Azure Bastion host, it is going to sit into a subnet whose name is fixed. Okay, you cannot change the name of this Bastion host subnet. The name of this is Azure Bastion subnet. You cannot change this name of this subnet. You have to give the same name, then only it will work, otherwise it will not work. And let me show you where you will see that. Here it is. If you look at this, use Bastion. Okay, if I have not set it up, but I can do that. I can, once I click on here, it will ask me to create a Azure Bastion using the default, or create your own Bastion host. Okay, you can try it out, but I am as a part of this demo will not do that. Hmm, but it is also available. Then anybody who want to connect to this machine, and then if you don't have a private public machine to your public IP address to your virtual machine, then you will be able to connect via the Bastion host to that. Hmm, fine. Let us do one thing. Let us first of all uh, set up a web server on one of the server. Hmm. So the first thing we want to do is to install the, let's say, Apache web server. Before doing that, let us update the package of your virtual machine. So sudo apt get update -y. This is the command you need to use when you are using the Ubuntu. The apt-get is the package which is going to help you to install the updates and the packages onto your this Ubuntu machine. Enter and fine. Let it create. Okay, and it is installed. Hmm. Then, yeah, just a minute. Okay, hold on. Uh, yes, I'm just trying to look at few of the things. Okay, leave it. Okay, fine. No, no. Okay, fine. That's okay. Huh. Okay, fine. This is okay. So our package is updated. Then let us do sudo uh, apt hyphen get and hyphen get installed install install Apache 2. This is the name of the Apache web server on the Ubuntu machine. And then I am going to put it yes. Okay, let us go and install it. Yeah. Okay, let it finish it off. Uh, okay, it is done. Very good. Now, once this is done, we could see the path, okay, which is this one, add a www, HTML, and yes, okay, we have, and let us do a ls here, and we could see the index.html is already created. If you want to look at the index.html, you will be able to do that, and it is having details of whatever the Ubuntu default landing page. It is available in this. Hmm. So escape. Yes. Okay, fine. That's good. Now we have installed. Let us see whether the service is enabled or not. Service to status. Okay, and it is showing active. Okay. Fine. So now let us use our IP address and try to open the web page of our virtual machine. Back and paste it. Will it open? It will not open. Why? Very basic thing. We did not enable the port 80, which is needed for our web server. So let us go and do that. How do you do that? Go to the networking part and add the inbound port here. And in the inbound port, just look at the service and type it HTTP here. It will take the port 80, have a priority and mention the port number HTTP, yeah, as the name HTTP, and it does not take any spaces. That's it. Yeah, and this for Apache web server. This is the name I am giving. or the description I'm giving for this. And I will simply say add it. So now you will see that the port 80 is added to our that particular virtual machine, and it should allow us to open the web server. Now at times it will not refresh immediately. So you just go here and try to do a refresh. Okay, fair enough. Yes, you can see that port 80 is there, which is opened. Let us go on the web page and just refresh. And you can see the Apache Ubuntu page is open. Hmm. This is the default web page of your Ubuntu machine. If I want to customize, again, we have seen this earlier as well. We can do a customization by just doing a changes in the index.html page. I can just go and do a vi index.html and yes. Uh, okay, and I will simply delete everything in this. I am using a what you can say a key, which is if you press dd, it is going to delete all the lines of your this. Yeah. And yes, I'm just doing that. You can also delete complete content of this, but yes, there is one command for it which I don't remember right now offhandy, but I'm just trying to delete whatever, yeah, the details here. Simply say delete. Yes. Okay, let it happen. Yes. Here it is, completely deleted now. Almost there. Yes. So everything is deleted. Now what I am going to do, I am just going to paste a sample script of my web server. Here is a sample script. Hmm. And this I can just say this is my fun server, fun web server. Okay, where is my small snippet? Yes. Okay, I can write this. Okay, let me just write this only, and I will just paste it, and I will just say this is my, will go into the insert mode and delete this. And this is my fun web server. That's it. Escape colon W Q and okay, now very good. What happened? Yes. It is not allowing me to do that because I do not have the privileges to do that. So whatever we have done, are complete, what you can say, efforts gone wasted. Let me just do a sudo -i, which will give me a root privileges, and then I will do a cd that /var www html and then the index. And what I can say, I can do something like this: cp index dot html and rename it indexed one dot html. I'm just creating a copy of it. Okay, fine. And if you look at this, the file, I should do actually this mv index dot html, rename it to index 2 dot html now. Fine. If I do ls now, the file is renamed, and I will say vi index dot html and put the code I have just, yeah, and here it is. And this is my fun web server for you. This is my fun web server. Escape. Yeah, and escape. Yes, so here it is. Enter, and that's it. If I look at my files and I do a cat index dot yes, and I can see yes. Fine. Let us go and refresh the web page, and you will see the fun web server. So that is how you customize your web server. Fine. So this is done for the Windows, Linux. Let us do it for the Windows. Windows is slightly different. Let us go here. If you want to enable the Windows web server, then you have to just go to the server manager here and enable one package. You have to go to manage, add roles and feature here. I'm just going to zip through it because we have already seen this. Those who miss this part, they can look at this. When you want to use our Windows web server, we have to use a web server, which is IIS as a feature to get the web server functionality. Next, 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 and install. Here it is. Let it finish. And then once it is done, yeah, it creates one folder, which is, you will see it. It will be called as init pub folder name, and then we will be able to see the web page of the our Windows machine. Uh, any questions still? Hmm? No? Anybody? Any questions till now? Okay, fine. Either you are able to understand it completely or you did not understand. So if you have any questions, please let us know. Okay, is it done? Yes, it is done. And I will say close it. Go to your web page, and here it is, the folder initpub. Go into this, and then there is a www root folder, and then there is a IIIS start, that is the default web page for your Windows machine. Again, we need to do the same thing. We need to enable the port 80 for our virtual machine to work, the web page to work on our Windows virtual machine. Again, I go into the networking section here, select the NSG, add a new rule. The rule will be for the HTTP. It will take the port, and I will just name it port 80 for RDP. Sorry, for web server. And that's it. Paste it here and add it. Okay, fine. Now back to our Windows machine. And if I just take a IP address of our Windows machine and put it in the browser, we should be able to see the web page of our Windows machine. And if I just paste it, okay, so it is done. Hold on. The networking, it is done or not. Okay, it is showing allow and open it. It's taking more than expected times, but it is going there. And you can see that our Internet Information Service web page is open on our machine. How do I customize it? Same procedure. Here in this, you have to edit this file, or in place of this, you can add a index.html as well. I can just do one thing instead of all these things. Okay, I will just select all of them, delete it, and paste the one which I have used for my other server, the fun web server code. Put it in here, put it in here, and just rename it. This is my fun web server, and I will save this, save as, okay, and select all files and give a name as index.html. That's it. Index.html is the name which is given. You can see that it is, yeah, edge file, and that's it. Again, go to this web page and just do a refresh, and you will see this is my fun website. That's it. This is what I want to show you as part of the VM creation. Let us move to the theory part. Okay, this is done. Yeah, we have seen how to connect to the Windows machine. We have seen how to connect to the virtual machine and so on. Then we will move to the costing model of our virtual machine. As you have seen that we are using our virtual machine by just going, selecting the virtual machine and then using it. That kind of a option is nothing but the on-demand way of looking at the things. Here is the on-demand. So you are going to have the highest cost for an on-demand virtual machine, and you are going to pay as you go for the virtual machine, which is visible in the configuration whenever we are creating the virtual machine. Then if you want a discount on whatever the on-demand pricing you have for your virtual machine, you can opt for a reserved virtual machine. Again, the same concept. You are giving a commitment to the Azure and Azure cloud provider that yes, I'm going to use your virtual machine for a period of 1 year to 3 year based upon my usage. By doing this, it is going to give you almost a discount of 72%, almost a discount, almost. Hmm? So, but the catch is you need to give a commitment to them that yes, you are going to use it for 1 year or 3 year period. Hmm? Even though if you don't use it, still you have to pay for that particular period. Another very, very important option which is available is the Azure hybrid benefit. What a Azure hybrid benefit? It is a licensing benefit which lets you bring your on-premise licenses for your Windows and SQL Server with a software assurance enabled on your Windows license. This is very, very important. If you have a SA or software assurance on your license for your Windows and SQL, then you can bring that license onto the cloud, utilize the benefit of it, and based upon that, you are going to get more discount for your workload. Similar to this, we also have a spot instance in your Azure environment. It works on the similar concept that any unused utilized capacity of the Azure environment, if you want, you can utilize as a spot instance and work with it. Again, there will be some interruption, but that's how the spot instance works. Okay, so then we will move to another concept which is called as availability of your virtual machine. Now, in term of Azure, there are certain things which you as a user has to manage whenever you are using the infrastructure as a service from Azure environment. Okay, so when you are maintaining, managing your virtual machine, you need to plan for any kind of a hardware maintenance, any kind of a unexpected downtime, or you will have a well-defined plan for a planned maintenance. Hmm? So when the platform fails, yeah, uh, uh, it will. So whenever anything which fails in your Azure environment, it will issue an unplanned hardware maintenance event in your Azure environment. Okay, so this is one of the possibility which can happen in your Azure environment. Any kind of unplanned hardware maintenance can occur. One of the what you can say key thing which you can expect during a live migration. Yes, there can be an unplanned hardware maintenance which can occur within your Azure environment. Okay, so if you have this, okay, we will see how to mitigate that. Then there can be some kind of a unexpected downtime which can occur for your virtual machine. Your virtual machine can fail anytime. Okay, and then Azure will have some kind of a automatically migrating that virtual machine from one box to another or try to recover from that. This is also a possible option. Yeah, and how do we mitigate that? We will see that. And then Azure also does a plan maintenance of various resources. In that case, you as an end user do not have to take any action, and it is going to be entirely on Azure to notify you and get the things done. Huh? So let me give you some of the links for this. Uh, yeah, here is the link for not this one, but yes. This is there is one document which is talks about a well architected framework or well architected reliability framework from Azure, and your maintenance and all will fall under that. Okay, here it is, reliability pillar of your well architected framework of Azure. So I'm going to share this link with you on the chat. Where is my chat? Here it is. Okay, go and read more details. How do you achieve a high availability? How do you achieve a disaster recovery and so on? Now, as I told you, yeah, this there can be those three scenarios which will have some kind of a maintenance or downtime on your environment. Then you need to plan for it by using something called as availability set. Hmm? So availability set is a concept in Azure which will help you to have some kind of a resiliency in terms of any failure which will happen in your Azure environment. There are two very important concepts which you have to remember is the fault domain and update domain. Hmm? So we have to specify the number of fault domains and number of update domains to get a SLA of 99.95. If you have two or more instances within a availability set, then you are going to get 99.95% of SLA. This is a guaranteed, a committed SLA from Azure. Hmm? You can configure multiple virtual machine in a availability set. Whenever you are creating this availability set and adding it to your virtual machine, yes, you can have a same availability set for different virtual machine. Then configure each application tier in separate availability set. This is one of the best practices. If you have a three-tier architecture like this, three-tier architecture, when you have your front end, then it is your application layer, and that is then the last one is the database layer. So if you have this kind of architecture, plan for a easy availability set for each of your layer separately like this, each of them separately. Hmm? Combine a load balancer with the availability set to get more resiliency in terms of sending the traffic and having high availability. Always try to use a managed disk with your virtual machine whenever you are using the availability set. This is you have to configure and you have to mention that. Now, what is the concept of update domain and a fault domain? As you can see, okay, we have two layers of our application. One is your web layer and one is your data layer. So what is update domain? Update domain allows Azure to perform incremental or rolling upgrade across the deployment of the virtual machine. So what happens is during the planned maintenance, only one update domain is rebooted at a time. So to give more clarity, whenever you create a availability zone, your virtual machine is placed into multiple update domain. Now, what does that mean? That means, so if you there is a planned maintenance which is going to happen on your virtual machine, at any given point of time, only one update domain will be updated. The second domain, because you have to give at least two update domains, the second domain will not be affected due to this planned maintenance. By ensuring this, what you will do, you will have at least one of your virtual machine working properly whenever there is a planned maintenance. Hmm? So this is the update domain for you, wherein you will place your virtual machine in different update domain so that whenever there is a planned maintenance happening, your application will not be affected. Hmm? Then we have a fault domain. Fault domains are nothing but a group of virtual machine that shares a common set of hardware, okay, network switches, and that shares a single point of failure. Okay, or so you can see a fault domain. This is one fault domain, this is fault domain, and you are placing your virtual machine into different fault domains so that you don't get affected by any kind of issues which happens to the actual physical rack, network, or any other physical component of this. The VM in our availability set are placed in at least two fault domain to have more resiliency. This is the mandatory things. At least it is going to place under two fault domain, so you should not face any kind of issues because of the rack or the switches failure. Now this concept is very much available there with your Azure environment, and this is availability set for you. Okay, there is a newer concept which is there, which is available with your virtual machine, that is called as your availability zone. Hmm. Now this availability zone feature is not available with each and every, but what it does, it is going to mitigate any kind of a availability zone failure. And in that case, your virtual machines which are situated in that particular availability zone, they will be what you can say, recovered from that particular availability zone failure. Hmm. All the availability zones will have a unique data center and independent power, cooling, and networking, and so on. So this is going to protect you from any kind of a data center failure. This availability zone also can be combined with your update and fault domains. By achieving this, you will be able to achieve a SLA of 99.99%. So this is possible with your availability zone. You have to select one of the availability zone, zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3 to achieve this availability or the resiliency in your Azure environment. Where it is, I will show that. Okay, here is my portal, and I go to the home and I will create a virtual machine. This time, another virtual machine, a Windows virtual machine, and I'm going to create in my the Windows RG, which was this one, yes. And I'm going to give a name, my uh, VM 123, and select the East. And here is the availability option. So you can see availability zone, availability set, and there's one more which is VM virtual machine skill set. We will see that later on, but these are the two main options for selecting the availability option. When I go and select the availability set, I have to create a availability set for it. So let us go and create a availability set, and you give a name, my uh, a set. Okay, and here it is. You can have update domain. You can have minimum one update domain, but that is not recommended because if one update, if there is any planned maintenance, all your machines will go into the updates and it might create any kind of a issue. And you can see the fault domain. You cannot go beyond the minimum two values, and you can add more fault domain as and when required. You can see you can have maximum 20 update domain and maximum 3 fault domain. So we'll look at two option here and here as well, just two. And I will say okay. And now your machines will be part of this availability set. Similar to this, you can also select uh, a availability zone as well. So when I select the availability zone option, you get an option of zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3, like this. And you can select this zone. Now this availability zone again is very dependent of the region which you are going to set it. Hmm. So this is your availability set. Now moving to next. I'm not going to create this virtual machine ahead, but just want to show you that. Okay, let us go ahead. And very important to understand one of the concept whenever we are using our resources is understanding what is vertical scaling, what is horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling, as you can see from the diagram, it is about increasing the capacity of your virtual machine. Yeah, the same virtual machine by increasing the size. So here you are just increasing the size of your virtual machine, or your, yeah. So it is the process of increasing and decreasing the power to a single instance of a workload, which is usually done manually. Hmm. Okay, I could see one question from Sita. Are you talking about the cost of the availability option? Yes, that might add up to the cost, but yeah, very limited. Hmm. Um, then horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling is nothing but a process of increasing or decreasing the number of instance of your workload. So earlier we have one instance, now we have two, then three, and so on. The advantage with horizontal scaling is you can reach a very huge number of horizontal scaling. Yeah, and with vertical scaling there is a certain limitation of the actual physical hardware size. Hmm. You will reach a upper limit whenever you are doing a vertical scaling. Other aspect is, if this particular box fails, your complete scaling fails. But this is not the case here, because you have replica of your that particular box, and that is going to take care of your application. Generally this kind of a scaling is used when you have a distributed architecture. Distributed, yeah, and that is generally available with your web server. This kind of vertical scaling is generally used with your database, which are not a good suitable candidate for non-distributed architecture, which is a candidate for non-distributed architecture, the databases. Okay, fine. Then we are going to look at another feature which is called as virtual machine scale set. What is this virtual machine scale set? A virtual machine scale set is nothing but a kind of feature which will deploy identical set of virtual machine to provide you extra capacity. Whenever the demand increases, you go and add capacity. Whenever the demand decreases, you can reduce the capacity. Hmm? You don't have to do any kind of a pre-provisioning of you don't have to do any kind of pre-provisioning of virtual machine whenever you are using a scale set. As the demand goes up, the virtual machines are added. As the demand goes up, the virtual machines are removed from this process. This scaling up, scaling down of the virtual machine scale set can be manual or it can be automated as well. You can use combination of both as well. Hmm? So that is also possible. Let me give you a link of the availability option here first, and then we will move to the virtual machine scale set as well. Here is the link of your availability options. Yeah, okay, yeah, uh, all those things. Well, we'll paste it in the chat. Here it is. And then, yes, coming back to the, okay, one more thing. Yeah, here is one more link I want to highlight. This is about the redundancy. Yes, same thing, I think. Yeah, okay, fine. Then moving to next, availability zone. We have already seen that. Vertical scaling, and then, yeah, here is the overview of the virtual machine skill set. Okay, so it is similar to auto scaling, but yes, it has certain different features as compared to your auto scaling. So you can see what is the difference between your virtual machine and a virtual machine scale set. Hmm? So you can see whenever you want to add extra VM, when you are using a virtual machine, you need to do a virtual manual process. You have to create, configure, and ensure compliance. But when you have a virtual machine scale set, yes, you can automatically create from a centralized configuration. We will see that configuration. Traffic balancing and distribution, again, it is manual, but with virtual machine scale, you can do it automatically by integrating it with the load balancer or application gateway. So application gateway is also a kind of a load balancer. Then high availability and redundancy is very limited in terms of your virtual machine, wherein you are using availability set or you are using the availability zone. With virtual machine, you have a distribution of your VMs across AZ and availability zone and availability set by default. Scaling, you need to do a manual monitoring and then use some Azure automation to do the scaling. Your auto scaling can be based upon certain host metrics, some monitoring parameter as well. So this is the difference and this is the link. Here it is, the link in the chat now. Fine. Okay. So let us go and look at how to configure a virtual machine scale set. Okay. So whenever you want to create a virtual machine scale set, yeah, you have to specify the number of VM, which will be the starting point of your virtual machine scale set. This is the initial instance count. Then you have to specify the size. Hmm. Then you can use a spot instance, which will give you what you can say discounted virtual machine. Select the disk, and then you can also enable scaling beyond 100 EC2 instance. There's an option there, and there is also a spreading algorithm. One is max spreading, and then one is the fixed spreading, yeah, which is not recommended for your zone. And yeah, so we'll see that option. So before that, I just let us go to the portal and then see it. Here is my portal. Here is my portal. Let me cancel this. Okay. Yeah, here it is. So if I want to create a virtual machine scale set, just simply go here and say virtual machine scale set. It is not giving that option here. Fine. We will just go and type it VMSS. So it will show virtual machine scale set. Hmm. Now remember one thing, okay, there are options whenever you are using the virtual machine scale set, whether you want to create the same type of virtual machine or you want to create a different type of machine, there's an option for it. Hmm. Let us go and create a virtual machine scale set. Type in, I'm going to use another resource group for it, just for segregation of the resources. VM, my VMSS demo RG, and I will say okay, and then give a name, ExcelR demo skill set. This is the name, and then I'm going to use the US East region. I don't want to, yeah, I can select availability zone. Yes, it is possible. Let me just go and select to availability zone here. And then you have orchestration mode. This is very, very important. Okay. So orchestration mode will give you flexibility in terms of what kind of virtual machines you are going to select it. In a uniform, what you can say, mm, virtual machine skill set, you will be having an option to create identical virtual machines when you use uniform. But with flexible option, you can create different types of virtual machine, and yeah, you can scale it based upon whatever the parameter you specify, and that is going to help you to scale your virtual machine scale set. Now let us go and look at this option as well. Here it is, the orchestration mode here. Yeah, overview. So it is nothing but a logical grouping of your platform, which is going to manage your virtual machine. There are two types, flexible and uniform. It is optimized for large scale stateless workload with identical instance. So you will see whenever I'm going to create a uniform, that it is going to create identical virtual machines. And when you create identical virtual machines, all this virtual machine will be visible in that particular resource group. And it is not going to create separate resource like the disk, the IP address, the network interface, and so on for this uniform virtual machine orchestration type. But when you go and look at the flexible orchestration, it will help you to create multiple virtual machine type. You can create up to 1,000 machines by spreading your VM across different fault domains and within a different AZs. This flexible orchestration enables you to scale out your application while maintaining the fault domain isolation that is essential to run the quorum based or stateful workload. This is for a stateless and this is for the stateful workload. So let us go and do it. Here is my portal. Okay, and I'm going to select first uniform, and we are going to select Windows one. Yeah, let us go that, and then select the same size and give a name, Azure VM, Azure user as the name, and the username. Fine, and then okay, this is something is wrong with the password. Uh, okay, what's happening? Did I miss one character here? Azure. Hmm, fine. Yes, done. Okay, and then next. Yeah, I'm just going to select the same and just focus on the networking part. Okay, at this moment it is not creating any public, so you can just edit it and create a public machine so that we will be able to connect to it. Yeah, you can see it is public IP address is disabled. Just enable it and I will say okay. Yeah, next scaling. Here is the scaling. This is the initial count you have to specify. If I set the initial count as 2, then it is going to create the 2 VM set. Okay, 2 virtual machine. Then you have a scaling policy which will help you to scale your environment based upon the scaling policy. I can have a manual scaling or I can have a custom. In the custom, you have options to scale out based upon the min and the max. You can specify what is the scale out condition whenever the CPU threshold is more than or CPU utilization is more than 75%. Scale by 1:2 instance in every 10 minutes. This is what you can do. Then if you want to scale in, which is reducing the number of virtual machines, that also you can specify here. Hmm? So I am not going to do a custom. I'm just going to do a manual. Yeah. And there is a scaling policy which will balance across AZs and fault domain. That's fine. Then go next. Yeah. I will not change anything here. Health. I can set up a health monitoring for my virtual machines. I can do that. I will not do it right now. Advanced. Nothing here. And it is saying yeah, so this is the spreading algorithm, max spreading and fixed spreading, which is not recommended with your zones. So I'm just going to go ahead with the max spreading. And tag, review, and then create. Let the validation pass and we will create the virtual machine scale set. Okay, so here it is, and we'll create the virtual machine scale set. Now in this, you can also do a what you can say a customized scaling based upon the CPU utilization. But because that is going to take more time because we have to wait for the scaling to happen every 10 minutes, 5 minutes, it is going to take more time. So we will not cover that. But the concept is same. You have to use the option manual or a custom to get the things done. And if you remember, we have tried to trace the CPU utilization of our Linux machine in when we did a practical for the auto scaling. Similarly to that, we also need to use certain commands or certain packages to load the CPU utilization of your virtual machine. Let it happen. Any questions so far? Hmm? Anybody, any questions? Anybody who's trying along with me? No? Okay, fine. Okay, so it is saying deployment succeeded. And if I go to the resource here, and you will see, yeah, you will see the virtual machine skill set is done. But if you want to see the virtual machine in this, you have to just go and click on the instance here. And you can see there are two virtual machines which are created by default. And you can click on here and you can connect to it like this. Stateful workload. So we have seen the concept of stateful and stateless in the. So when your workload is aware of your application states, that is the stateful, and which when it is not aware of the state, that is the stateless. That is the. So in terms of your the networking type, networking side, whenever you are context aware of your application, whatever the context of your application, then it's kind of a I would say stateless kind of thing. Yeah. Yes. So here it is. You can see my virtual machine is configured. I have a public IP address and I can go and connect to it. Hmm. So few things to observe. Whenever we create a virtual machine with the type as uniform, you will see the virtual machine like this. But if I go and select the other method, which is the flexible, then you will see in this particular resource group, here is the resource group for my resources. So where is my resource group? Let me just go to the resource group. Here it's the resource group and my demo. In this, you will see only the three resources here. You can see just three resources. So NSG, virtual machine skill set, and a VNet. But when you create a flexible type, let me just show you that as well. Okay, let us go and do that. Virtual machine create, sorry, virtual machine VM scale set here. Yes, scale set here, and create new. Give a name. I will just do the same thing. Use a different name. Let me create one more. I will give my name my VMSS. My VMSS flexible RG and find. No, this is create new. Give a name. Okay, and name same thing. And same region, I am going to select the availability zone as 2, and this time I'm going to select the flexible. Again, the same thing, the data center edition, the size, username as your user, and the password for it. Okay, and again the password. Fine, done. Then the disk, yeah, leave it as it is. Networking, again, yeah, let us enable the public IP address. Yes, it is enabled it by default. You can see here. Yeah, okay, cancel it. Then scaling, again, I will keep it manual scaling. Management, nothing is there. Health, I don't want to do. Advanced, next, review, and create. Okay, so validation passed. Let us go and create it. Yeah. Okay. So this is how auto scaling can be implemented. You can set up a min value, a max value, And whenever there is a need for you to have auto scaling, you can do that by defining a rule. Yeah, this rule will automatically adjust the capacity of your auto scaling group. You can have an option of scale out, which will increase the number of virtual machine. You can have an option of scale in. You can also schedule that event to increase or decrease at a fixed amount of time. And whenever you need to use auto scaling, you also need to have a monitoring, which will help you to optimize the performance of your resources. So this is one of the options which is we can explore by using the customize option. So yeah, there's the same thing what I have shown you on the portal, but I want to share some link for it. Yes, there it is. Machine skill set. Link. Ah, fine. There is no link here. Okay, fine, no worries. So in this case, you can see we can set up a value. Okay, scale out value and a scale in value. You can set a threshold. Here also you can set a threshold. And this is the time interval between the scale in, scale out or scale in process. Yeah, so let us just get this thing done and then we'll move to another topic which is called as app service. Okay, app service. Yes. Okay. So let that be done. We will meanwhile we'll just look at the app service. What is app service? Now, whatever we have seen till now, this falls under the ISaaS or the infrastructure as a service. But in Azure, we also have one of the service which is the app service. That app service is a PaaS service for you. This is a PaaS service wherein you can define a set of compute resources which will be needed for your web application to run on top of it. All you have to do is to bring your application on top of this app service, select the performance tier, the license tier, and then the features which are coming along with that license. And then you can simply run your application without worrying about the underlying hardware. Now, whatever the underlying hardware which is given along with this PaaS service is dependent on your license. So you can have one or more apps that can be configured to run under the same service plan. So you can have multiple applications running in the same app service plan. Okay, this app service plan will be part of a region where computer resources will be created. You will have number of virtual machines, and you can select the size, and you can also select the pricing tier for it. So here is the pricing tier for you. So in the free app service plan, this is the app service plan. You can create 10 web mobile API apps. You can create 10 apps. Then disk space you are going to get is just 1 GB. There is no auto scaling here, no deployment slot, and there's no option of a maximum instance. What you will do is you will create these resources under a shared compute. You run app on the same virtual machine as other app service app, and the resource cannot scale out. Then we have the other plans, which is the shared, which will give you option to have host almost 100 web, mobile, and API apps, 1 GB of size, and then the same thing applies here. Then we have a basic, which is good for your dedicated dev and test environment. You can have n number of apps here, and the disk space you are going to get is 10 GB, and the maximum EC2 instance, maximum virtual machine, which is part of that underlying infrastructure, will be maximum 3. So in this case, you are going to get a dedicated, dedicated compute resource, which will help you to run your resources under the basic standard of premium plan. All apps will run in the same dedicated Azure VM. Then we have a standard plan where we can host production workload. You can have unlimited apps, and it provides your disk space of 50 GB. Auto scaling feature is supported with standard. You have 5 deployment slot. Now, what is deployment slot? This is the This is the slots which will be used to deploy your apps at different. So this 5 count means at the same time you can deploy 5 apps onto your app service plan at the same time. This is the concurrency of the amount of apps you can deploy. Then up to 10 instances will be available for you as an underlying infrastructure. Then we have a premium, which is for enhanced scale and performance. Auto scaling is supported. 20 deployments are available. Up to 30 virtual machines can be there. And then the isolated, which is for your high performance, security, and isolation. It can give you a disk of 1 TB and deployment slot of 20, and up to 100 virtual machines can be run on this. So let me give you a link of it. Here is the hosting plan for you. Paste, and here is whatever I have just told you. These are the hosting plans you will see here. How do you manage? Uh, and these are the different packages or the compiler softwares which are supported with your app service plan: ASP.NET, Node.js, PHP, Java, Python, WordPress, and so on. Hmm. Cost management. In this cost management, you will have, okay, yeah, here it is, the app service plan. Let me paste the link here first. You can see the app service plan. Here it is. Whatever I've just told you, you can see it here. Okay. The price is also there, 6.43 rupees per hour, and so on. More features as well are there. Yes. So let us look at first for our the virtual machine skill set, whether it is done or not. Here it is. Okay, and I go to the resource group first and then show you from there. In this case, you can see the instance here. Okay, there are 2 instances, and for all the instance, you will see the various parameters, disk, all those things separated out. If you look at the resource group view for this, I go into the flexible RG, and you will see now not just the virtual machine skill set, but you can see the network interface is showing, the virtual machine is showing, the disk is showing, the IP address, and so on, which is not the case with the other VM set. When we have used the uniform, you can see only 3 resources, but with flexible, you can see all the resource type as part of you. And you have the flexibility to choose different types of virtual machine when you go for this flexible option. Okay. Now let us go and look at our app service plan. So how do you create an app service plan? Just go and look at app services. Here it is. Okay, and then you have to go and create a app service. Create a app service. Again, same concept. You have to use a resource group. I will give a name. My uh, my web app app RG. This is the name of my service plan. Then I have to give a unique name. So you can see that this is going to create a URL based upon that. So I will give my ecom web. This is the name I have given, and I can, okay, I can bring any kind of a code for this. I can bring a Docker container, or I can host it as a static website as well. So I'm going to use as a code only, and then whatever the runtime application engine you want to use, you can use it. Let us go and use the .NET, and I'm going to use operating system as Windows, and I'm going to host it in the US East. And here are the plan, the app service plan. I can just change the size. You can see there are various sizes. S1. If you look at the dev, this is the service plan F1, D1, B1. Based upon that, you can see what is the memory you are going to get, what is the number of minutes you can use this app service plan in a day, and so on. Okay, I can look at this one S1 option, which is under the production. I will go for it, and that's it. Apply. Then next. And I don't want to enable any GitHub action. I don't want to do that. I don't want to connect it. Networking. And I don't want to enable any network injection. Monitoring, I can enable monitoring, but I don't want to do that. Okay, let us go next. Okay, I can create application. The application insight is one of the monitoring tools where it will show all the whatever the application is behaving. It will show all the details about it. Hmm. Then next tag, and I will say review, and I will create it. Now what is going to happen is it is going to create a web app for us, which is a default web app, and it will be hosted on the .NET application. So I'm going to say yes, create it, and it will just host the application for me. So I'm not doing anything in terms of the infra provisioning. It is going to be taken care by Azure. All I'm doing is taking a code, which is a sample code from Azure, and just hosting the web app using that. In this case, I have used the .NET 6.0 as my platform. So let us wait for this to be completed. Once it completes, it creates a DNS endpoint for your web app, and you can see that web app by going to the URL and pasting in the browser. Okay, so let's wait for this to be completed. So it is creating a deployment, and it is going to use underlining server, which are provided by Azure, and it is going to provision it. So once this is done, we will take a 5 minutes break, and we will continue with the storage account. Okay. Yes. Any questions on this? Yes, no? Okay, our deployment is complete. Let's go to the resources here. Okay. And you can see here is the URL for our web app. Copy this. And if you go to this URL, you will see your web app running there. Paste it, and here it is. Yeah. So yes, your web app is running and waiting for the content. This is the default landing page, and now you can go and change the details using this. Yeah. Not many customization you can do. You can change this web page and all those things. So actually, it is in the background using a code which is available for you. But you don't have any content yet. If you have already deployed it would take 5 minutes for your content to show. So that's why it is just showing the default landing page. And I will give you the link of this. Here it is, and you can see this web app. You want to do, and you can do some customization as well. There is an option to customize this within your web app service. Yes. Go here, and there's an option on this left hand side here. Yes. Okay. It is taken care. It is taken care by your the web app service. This is for Suvecha. Yeah, and there is an app service editor. This is what I was talking about. It will give you option to edit the code what you have just written. whatever code you have used, it is going to give you option to change the code and apply it. Okay. Um, so you can see here, it has pointed me to this. Yeah, and I can edit it going into this. Here it is. This is the code. Whatever you saw on the screen, that was the code actually. And if I just go and change the color here, I will say red, and I will say save it. Okay, it is saved. And if you want to just do open preview, just refresh. It's not. Okay, let us go into the hosting page. Did I change the color as red? Yes, it is changed. Open in the preview. Oh, it is not showing anything here. Uh, select to compare. Color is showing red, but it is not updated. Show output. Not showing. And go to the file and refresh it. Where is my this URL? So it might take some time. It might take some time for this to just appear in there. So we will take a 5 minutes break and we'll continue with this. If you have any questions, please let me know. Copy it, paste it in the browser. Anybody, any questions? So this is the end of what you can say our compute section. We will move to the next section, which is our storage account, and we'll continue from there. So 5 minutes break, and we'll be back. Okay, and we'll continue till 9:30 today. Fine. So 5 minutes break from now. Okay, I'm back. So let's get started. Can you hear me? Just please give a thumbs up if you are able to hear my voice. Yes, no? Yes, thank you. Very good for being attentive. Okay. So here is my next topic, which is called as Azure Storage Account. And this is a service which is used for a storage purpose. Hmm. So let us go and look at the details about it. So we will try to cover the theory part today, and then we will do the practical tomorrow, so that everybody is able to uh, do it. Rajesh, I would request you please not to disturb the class. Hmm. Thank you very much. Amar, can you please look into this? Rajesh.
Yes, yes, sure, sir.
Okay. Fine. So what is a storage account? Yeah. So whenever you want to work with the storage service in Azure, then the first thing you have to do is to create a storage account. Now within the storage account, then you will be able to store your files. Okay, you can store your any type of files. Hmm? Within the Azure storage account, there are different types of storage based upon your usage. For example, you have a Azure files as a storage. You have a blob storage. You have a table storage, and you also have something called as queue storage. Hmm? So this Azure storage is going to give you a durable, secure, scalable, and publicly available storage. Just like your S3, this Azure blob storage is going to help you with the same thing. Again, the blob storage is going to is just like a object storage, and whatever the object you are going to store in that will be accessible by a URL. Mm. This Azure storage account can be used to store the backup of your virtual machine. It can store any structured data, uh, yeah, unstructured, and so on. Rajesh, so you, so thank you very much. So nice of you being writing that in English now. So if you have any concerns for not understanding, let us connect after the class, and we can talk about it. Thank you very much. Then within the storage account, we have different tiers of your storage account. One is called as premium storage account, and another is called as standard account. With the latest standard account which we are using is standard V2, and we will see more details about it. So here is the link for it. Uh, yes. Fine. So here are. So what are the benefits of your Azure Store account? It is highly durable. It is highly available. It is highly secure. By default, it is the public access is denied for this Azure storage account. It is highly scalable. It can give you a massively scale. It can be from terabyte to petabyte and exabyte, and it is fully managed by Azure, and it is accessible from various other services or HTTP or HTTPS. Hmm? So yeah, these are the services which are included in it: Azure Blobs, Azure File, Azure Queues, Azure Table, and Azure Disk. Hmm? So we will see the use cases of all of them and one by one. But let us go and look at the others option. Okay, so uh, once you create your Azure storage account, then you need to create something called as a container. If you want to use the blob storage, then you need to create a container for it. Now, just like the bucket concept in S3, we call this as a container. Now, this container will consist of your blob storage and then table, queues, and so on. Hmm. Now, this container, it is going to be going to help you to save a object, which can be a text, it can be a binary data, it can be a audio, it can be a video file, and so on. Then you have Azure Table, which is ideally suited for storing structured and non-relational data. So it is, just think it as kind of a database for your data. Then we have Azure Queues. The Azure Queue is helpful for you to store messages and transport those messages reliably between various components of your Azure environment. So it is similar to what you can see for the SQS, AWS SQS. Hmm? And then we have Azure File, which is a highly available managed file share for your virtual machines and also for your on-premise deployment. Now, this is a shared file system which can be mounted on various other devices like your virtual machine. It works with your Windows as well as Linux, and there are different protocols which we have to use when we go and use it. So here is one of the link how to create a storage account. Here is the link for it. Yeah. So there are certain prerequisite. Yeah. How do you go about it? And all those things you can see here, and then create the account. Let me share that link. Okay, fine. And then we also have, I have another link which will help you to understand how do you migrate from a version 1 of a standard storage account to version 2. Hmm? This is also going to be helpful when you are using your yeah. So the general purpose V2 account supports the latest storage features which are not part of your virtual general purpose V1. And if you want to migrate it, there is a procedure for it, and you can utilize that. So that is also, I am going to share it. Fine. Then let us go here. Let us look at the different storage kinds which are available with your Azure environment. Hmm. So first is the standard general purpose V2s, which is used for most scenarios and which will support you blob, your file, queue, table, and even data lake storage. So with your general purpose V2, you can also create a data lake solution on your Azure environment. Then we have another type of storage account which is called as premium block blobs. This block scenario is going to be used when you have a high transaction rates or IOPS, and then or a scenario that uses very smaller object and requires very low latency. If you need that kind of performance, then you have to go for a premium block blobs. Then within this, we also have a premium file share, which is used for high performing file share application, which needs very huge kind of what you can say performance from this file share. Hmm? Then we have a premium page blob, which is also used for high performance page blob scenarios. Remember one thing, all your storage accounts are by default enabled with your encryption, and that is called as storage service encryption, SSE, for the data which is there on your storage account. Hmm? So let's go here and find this is okay. Let me go to the link here, and we can look at the various types of yeah performance. Yeah. Okay. this one, I would say plan. No, this is not the one I was talking about, but that's fine. I will show you whenever I'm creating a storage account for you, and we'll see that. Then let us move to another concept within the storage account, which is talking about the replication whenever we are using our storage account. Yeah. So here it is. So whenever you store your data into your storage account, this storage account replicates your data to various places so that you get high availability, high durability. Hmm? So Azure Storage copies your data, which can be protected from any kind of a plan, unplanned event, or any kind of a hardware failure, power failure, and so on. Now, this data can be replicated based upon the replication strategy across different data centers. It can be across different availability zones. It can be across different regions, and also can be separated out by almost the complete geographical region. Hmm? So the first option as a part of the replication is called as LRS, okay, which is nothing but locally redundant replication. So whenever you copy one object into your storage account, it creates 3 copies of your data in a single data center. So that is the LRS for you, 3 replicas of your data in one region. This ensures that your data is protected against any kind of a disk failure, node failure, rack failure, and so on. Whenever you write your data, the write is acknowledged when all the replicas are committed. Now this is something to do with the consistency. Again, the same concept. Whenever you are copying the data onto your storage account, immediately the data is not copied on all the 3 locations. And if you try to read that data immediately after the write, then that might not give you the right result. Okay, so it is saying that yes, whenever the write is acknowledged, the write is acknowledged only in the case when all the 3 replicas are committed properly. Hmm? With this, it is giving you a RAID functionality, a superior dual parity RAID functionality by using this LRS. If you need more details about the RAID configuration and so on, you can just go and look at for RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6. These are the options which are available. Huh? This LRS is going to provide you a durability of 11 nines, yeah, which is measured over a period of 1 year. This LRS is the most what you can say cheapest kind of most cheapest kind of a storage account, yeah, which is helpful when you want to store the data. Yeah, it offers the least durability as compared to any other option which are available on the replication strategy. Hmm. Okay, then we have a ZRS. Okay, so ZRS, just a minute. Okay, yeah. So that is okay. So that is the LRS for you, and then we'll move to the ZRS. ZRS is going to give you a replication and what you can say resiliency at the zone level. So we have a zones within our Azure environment. It is going to give you the option to have a resiliency at the zone level. What it does, it synchronously copies your data across 3 zones in a particular region. Each storage cluster is separated from each other by at least some 100 miles. Yeah, and this data will be in a separate AZ. So that is your ZRS. It when you use this, again, it is going to give you protection against the disk, node, rack, and zone failure as well. Hmm? This is slightly higher level of replication as compared to your LRS. In this, the data is synchronously returned to all the 3 zones within a particular region. Then we have the GRS. Okay. So what is GRS? GRS is nothing. Sorry, just a minute. What happened? Okay. Yes. GRS. What it does, it creates a copy of your data in 2 regions. Okay. It creates a copy across 2 regions, and this is called as geo-redundant storage, GRS, which is going to provide you a durability of 16 nines, which is huge. Yeah. And once your data is copied into a primary data center, that data is going to be copied to a secondary region, and this data is going to be copied asynchronously, which means there will be some sort of lag when you are copying your data from one particular region to another region. Hmm? So, so there will be six replicas as of now. Hmm? It protects you against any major regional data disaster. So remember this. So even if your region is completely down, then it is going to provide you the resiliency in that case. Hmm? So this is the geo redundancy, geo redundant storage for you. Now, yeah, and then typically there is a lag of 300 milliseconds between the whatever the detailed data you have, and that is going to be available in this. Hmm? Now this is the LRS and ZRS are a single region, whereas your GRS and the RAGRS, which is nothing but a read access GRS, geo redundant storage. What it does is it is going to replicate your data across 2 regions, 3 copies in the primary, 3 copies in the secondary. Data is synced asynchronously. Typically, there will be a 300 millisecond lag between your data. But what happens is it will give you an option of reading the data from the secondary region as well. Hmm? So whenever you want to access your data, you get an endpoint, and that endpoint is going to give you access to that. In a GRS, whenever you want to access your data, you are diverted to the primary data center, and that's it. But when you have RAGRS, you can go and do a read of the secondary data center as well. Now, what can be the use case for it? Suppose you have some kind of application which is spread across your globe, hmm? And this data need to be accessed at a very low latency from another region. So you create a RAGRS copy of that particular storage account. Your primary application, which will be in one region, and the another application which might be in some other region, will have a copy of your data in that region. And if you want to do a read operation on that, yes, you can do that by using the RAGRS. Hmm? So by using this, yes, you can do this read operation. Then look at the other options. Hmm? This is called as GZRS. In this case, what you are doing is you are creating copies of your data in 3 AZs locally in that particular region, and that then this is copied across to the secondary region. So that means again you have a 6 replicas across 2 regions. It is going to write all these things. Yeah, it is going to write synchronously to all the 3 AZs within the same region, and then it is going to do a asynchronous copy of your data into the secondary region. So that is GZRS. All this, whatever the options you are seeing here, has some cost associated with it. Hmm? So be aware whenever you want to go and do this. Then we have a RAGZRS, which is going to provide you a read-only copy of your data in secondary region, and this is helpful when you want to use the application. In the just some time back, I've just explained you what are the options for it. Hmm? So how do you access your data? Okay, so whenever you use your storage account, there is a URL which is created for your storage account. That URL will be something like this. So this URL is going to change based upon type of the storage service you are going to use. If you are going to use the container, which is nothing but your blob storage, then the URL for that would be something like this: https:// name of your container .blob.core.windows.net. Then table will be denoted by .table.core.windows.net, and then for queue it will be queue.core.windows.net, and so on. And then for your file service, it will be like this. Hmm? Now, whatever this the URL which you are getting for your storage accounts, you can also convert into a customized domain by using the CNAME record. And that is the concept of the DNS, which we can use and very well uh, use a customized URL for it. Hmm? So let me show you one more URL, which will help you to understand how do you secure your the Azure storage account. Here it is. Yeah, secure your Azure storage account, and this is what you can say a exercise where you can just explore and understand the different things. So let me just go and paste it here in the link. Okay, fine. And so let us go and create a what you can say a container, and yeah, here is my storage account. Yeah, go to the home and then search for storage account here. Storage account, here it is. And okay, so you can see there is already a storage account which is created for me, but I will create a new one, and I just go and select create storage account. Yeah, I can use one of the resource group which I've already created, but just for the sake of segregation, I'm going to create a new storage account. The name would be my storage, my ExcelR storage account RG. That is what I'm going to give and say okay. So all these options what we have just talked about, you will see now it will be utilized. Remember one thing: the name of your storage account should be unique. So I will give ExcelR SA. Okay, this is the name, and it is not going to take the hyphen. So I will use underscore or simply this. That is okay. Fine. This whenever you create a storage account, you have to specify your region. Okay, here is I'm specifying the region, and then the performance tier. Yeah, remember I talked about the performance tier, general purpose, and then the premium. In standard, you will only have the option to select the general purpose V2, but if you go and select the premium, you will have various other options. For example, premium page blob, premium file share, and premium blobs. Hmm? If you need to know more about it, we can see that. Then, but I will just go ahead with the standard, and then the just a minute. Okay, and then the redundancy option. Okay, so you can see the redundancy option. Now in this case, you can see there are only sorry, there are only 4 options here: locally, the geo, zone redundancy, and zone GZRS. So if you go and select this, then you will have a very limited options, which is like this. Then if I go with page blob, I might have different. No, it is not there. And file share. Okay, yeah. Okay, fine. So we will just go ahead with this standard, and we are going to use the local redundancy because we don't want to incur any charges on our account. Then go advanced. Okay. And if you want to create a data lake, you have to just enable this. But if you don't want, you can just skip it. And you can enable a public access to your URL by selecting this. Then networking. Yeah. Enable public access from all network. If you want, you can do that. Otherwise, yeah, go ahead with the same option. Then data protection. By default, what happens is whenever you create a storage account, it it creates a kind of a backup of your account, and which will help you to recover your data for a period of 7 days. So if I enable this, enable soft delete for blobs, it is going to retain whatever the deleted storage for a period of 7 days. So I can just simply go and remove that option. This is for the blobs, containers, and file share. Yeah. Then there are various other features which we'll see tomorrow. But at this moment, just go ahead with this. Then encryption, by default, it is there. We will go ahead and with this. Then tags if you want to, and that's it. Okay, this is how it is going to run a validation on it, and that's it. And we will create our storage account. Hmm. So let it create. Okay. So once this is done, we will stop for today and we'll meet tomorrow, and we'll see other things when yeah, how to upload file, how to read that file, how do you get access to that file, the various features of your storage account like versioning, life cycle, all those things we will see tomorrow. Hmm? So let it complete. Okay, that's it. So here is our storage account which is created. Hmm? So you can see all the different values for our storage account. And then you can see there are 4 options: containers, which we have not created till now, file shares, queues, and then the table. Hmm? And you can see the other policies of your what you can say storage account, like object replication, then lifecycle management, and versioning is already there. And then you can also have some kind of a metrics on your data and so on. Okay, so that's it what I want to show today, and we will meet tomorrow at the same time. Tomorrow we will have a class of 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes only, and we will finish tomorrow little early. So anybody having any doubts what we have learned today, I will be available for next, let's say, 2-3 minutes. If you have any questions, I can take that questions and answer it. Not the questions like Rajesh. Yeah, so you will have such kind of elements everywhere. Okay, thank you, Mansi. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Rishit. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. So what we will do, we will end the class. If you don't get any questions in next 1 minute, we will end the class. Okay, I am stopping the sharing. If you don't have any questions, then yes, we can end the class. Hmm? Okay, fine. Bharat, Amar, you can stop the recording.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.